Great. So once again, welcome everyone. As you know that this is our first webinar it's on the education sector, and it's on the future of K12 online or virtual school. We've got with us Leena Ashar, we got Kavita. At the same time, we've also got lots of parents, but specifically we thought of checking with a couple of parents such as Willie and Richa, and thank you for being part of this particular webinar. What I'm going to do right now is to start with, I'll give a quick introduction of a special guest, who is Leena Ashar. She brings in about more than 30 years of experience, and I do remember my discussion with about 10 years back, when she came to my previous workplace. She's an amazing human being. That's the only thing which I still remember, and that's why I really, appreciate what she's been doing in the K12 online school. Thank you very much, Leena. And what I really like about her is that she's very passionate about children, the learning, the peace, the happiness, and what I would call in a very simple word is she's beyond a lot of things. And her whole philosophy is that can we create a better tomorrow, a better future? And I really appreciate where she's coming from. At the same time, she, as you know, she was a founder of Kangaroo Kids and Billabong High School as well. And obviously, she's now in her next journey. So I don't know when she's going to retire, because that's the question which I keep on asking her. And every time I meet her at her home, she comes with something which is more interesting and disruptive in terms of what can be done to improve the way K12 online education or the K12 education can be sort of looked by each one of us. And she has some different views, and some of them are definitely going to be a challenging and as well. So thank you, Leena, once again for being part of this. We've got Kavita Jain as well. She is a doctorate of education with over 20 years of experience. And she has set up about 100 schools and consulted more than 3,000 schools in different part of India. She's already, educated about 1 million kids under her supervision. So she also brings a very deep and rich experience about education in K12. And as I mentioned, we've got parents such as Willie and Richa, who's going to help us to understand what they think about as a parent about online school or hybrid school. So with that, probably I'll start with my first question. And as you know, that Leena, created this Kangaroo Kids, and then she sold her business. And it would be very interesting to hear her thoughts that why did she sold the business? What was the motivation? Because I thought that it's like she's going to be a furniture and she's going to run this forever. But it's came to me as a pleasant surprise. So I'm sure, Leena, you will be up to something new. So we would love to have your thoughts and what are your plans as well.
Lovely. Thank you, Amit. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So I just want to start by saying hybrid, physical, digital, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is what we're teaching kids, how we're teaching them, and more importantly, why we're teaching them. I think we're all very, very much aware that the world cannot really continue the way it is continuing, and we need to create kids as thought leaders, and we need to be able to create them so that they actually lead the world to a more conscious, connected, and a more abundant future. Capitalism, the way it exists, is not working. Sorry, Amit, but it's my deep, seated view that we have to actually go from competition to collaboration, from consuming to creating, in order for us to have a world for our grandkids. I mean, I'm of a grandmother's age now, and when my son says he doesn't necessarily want to bring a child into the world, I completely understand it. Climate change and things the way that they are, it's not great. So as I said, it's not about whether we're digital, hybrid, or whatever it is. For me, it's about bringing equity in education. And by equity, I don't mean shares in a company, Amit. By equity, I mean a more sort of level playing field for all kids. And the only way I can do that, firstly, to create that impactful change is if we collectively touch 1 billion kids' lives, and that's what our aim is. And secondly, we can only bring equity in through technology. Otherwise, the minute you go into a brick and mortar of a school and everything else, the the economics just shift and you have to charge a certain fee. I know, Amit, what you're paying for an IB education. And what we are is firstly board agnostic, we're IB, we're IG, we're ICSE, we're CBSE, we're everything online, and yet we're not just content. We're not just academic content, we're actually life literacy, because I don't know if there's this thing going around, this Izzy, this youth girl in meaning. And I think we just kind of lost our way with what it is we are, what we exist for in the first place as education. So increasingly, one is that the amount of data that's being generated is so much that we can't just keep on expanding the content we're teaching kids. And that's where the kids' overwhelm is coming from. We no longer have to have them have the ability to store this information. We've got to have they have to have the ability to process it in some way, analyze it in some way, interpret it in some way, and act upon this information in such a way that they create something new out of what they've absorbed and they've interacted with. And that's kind of the future of the world. The other reason I'm really an advocate of digital is we're in an attention economy. Online, I've got the kids' attention. They're not distracted by what the kid next to them is doing. They're not distracted by the overall noises in the classroom. And trust me, that is massive. And the second reason is because I've got the attention and because I put the science of learning to it, we finish academic and life literacy in half the amount of a school day, which means kids have got freedom and time to become one of the 4 types of valued people going forward. One is they can become an expert master performer. So they can be like the best golfer in the world, an expert at something, but they need to have time freed up for that. They can become a very high EQ individual. And, one of the things is that we teach the conscious brain in physical schools, not the subconscious. Here we're constantly teaching the subconscious because subconscious drives 80% of our behavior. We focus on IQ and not EQ. Here we've got a 60-40% weightage in favor of EQ because the future will belong to those with high EQ. And this third sort of person valued going forward is someone who's built a personal copyright, like a subset of interest and skills. So it could be, where something intersects my interest, for instance, in brain science and behavior science, in pedagogical practices, in children, in the science of learning. When I bring that all together, I've got a personal monopoly. So that's the third type of person who will be valued going forward. And the fourth type of first person being valued going forward is a moonshot thinker, like an innovator, someone who connects the dots differently. And us being online frees up kids' time to become one of these 4 people.
Thank you, Leena. It's very interesting, and you touch about 2-3 very interesting topics, and specifically at Blink Invest, as you know, we invest in education and financial services, and within the education sector, we always had question mark or thoughts that there are millions and billions of students, specifically in India. And if you go to even a place which is near to Bombay, like Lonavala, and you will see children out of school, and the quality of education is drastically different than Bombay. So do you think that online is probably the solution? Sorry, may I request all the participants to please keep your on mute? Yeah, sorry, I've done it. Yeah. So do you think that the online K12 school or online is going to solve the problem which even the government of India is trying to solve, to ensure that everyone gets same quality of education, everyone get a standard quality of education, there's a consistency, there's less of dropouts? Do you think online K12 school or online is going to be an answer for this?
So online gives us the ability to do many things. One is to beam the best teacher from anywhere in the world into anyone's home or into any classroom, right? Physically, that's a very, very difficult thing to do. I read somewhere that the Delhi government, it costs them 76,000 rupees a year to educate a child. We charge 55,000 for the year. with the best teachers and the best learning formats, and we're digital. So yes, I believe technology can demonetize education. It can make education accessible, and it can actually get to the core of an education for life, because we get through things a lot quicker than you do in a physical classroom. You know, a lot of people think, oh, but what about group work? I mean, we're doing breakout rooms where kids are actually interacting with content all the time in very, very meaningful ways. You know, so collaboration, creativity, everything that we want kids to be, we can do through the power of technology.
It's very interesting and amazing that how technology is changing everything. And absolutely, we all went through that changes ourselves as well, especially during the pandemic. And this is probably a question to Kavita, that during pandemic everything was online, everything was supposed to be only online, and as we moved away from the pandemic, we're seeing they're back to your physical mode of schools, back to my daughter getting up early in the morning at 6 o'clock, coming home at 3:34. Do you think that we are back to the old days, or do you think that this is a permanent shift in the model? Any thoughts, any views around this, Kavita?
Thanks, Amit. One of the challenges in pandemic is, while it was amazing how we adapted to teaching online, but the sad part of it is we took a curriculum that was designed for offline delivery and decided to teach that online. Now, what it did is it did bring a lot of bias in the minds of the consumers, both the learners and the parents, to say, okay, online is not going to work, because they actually experienced an offline curriculum taught online. But if the curriculum is designed for online delivery, like Lena said, today, kids are digital natives. Their brains are tuned to consuming information online through a digital platform. When I say online, I mean a digital platform. And if that's the way they are learning and they would love to learn, I mean, I know a lot of kids. I've been in the space, like you said, for 20 years. I've been in traditional school setup. I've set up hundreds of schools, consulted schools with traditional curriculum, progressive curriculum. Many times kids would come up and say, what my teacher taught for 30 minutes, I could learn in a micro learning video in 3 minutes on YouTube. I wasted 27 minutes in the classroom. And I had to do it because I was put there in that setting. So one of the questions that you asked before, and then I'll answer this one, is hybrid, online, physical. I think it's all going to be learner as an agency. Learner's choice as to what do they want, how do they want to learn, based on the availability of resource, based on infrastructure, based on logistics, based on their own learning styles. Some people could actually be just fabulous at learning in a physical space, and some could be fantastic in learning in a virtual space. So I think the future is about learner as an agency. How and why and where do they want to learn? As long as a country, we are able to recognize learners and their choices and move forward, create our education space for them to make those choices, I think we're moving in the right direction. Coming back to the question that you asked, I think a lot of progressive schools have also moved to a hybrid model. They've recognized the fact that flipped classrooms and a hybrid model gives learners a lot of personalization in learning. In a class, I can introduce a concept, but then if they want to deep dive within a traditional classroom, they are never going to get that space and opportunity to do that. So when they do hybrid, they realize that they're able to engage children better, give them that attention of either filling the gap or taking them to an extension of learning. So hybrid is definitely the way forward, and virtual even more. And like you rightly said, Amit, I think it does address that big question of equity in education, of making education accessible to, in fact, so many universities and governments are doing projects. MIT came up with a fantastic research project where they said, how could we convert televisions in rural homes in India by adding a small device and making it into a computer where they could actually stream? Because I was in Andaman Nicobar Islands just before COVID, and there are small islands with like 20 kids. the government cannot construct a school for them for 20 kids and across age groups, but they have internet. So they could actually experience learning in exactly the way that a learner in Mumbai is experiencing learning. And that's the power of bringing in technology. The other thing about bringing in technology is not just about making education accessible, but it's also about making learning futuristic. Today, if kids are not trained on computer literacy, they're going to find it very difficult to survive in the world. All of us need our computers and phones all the time to do our work. And if you are not preparing them for being a native to using that device, just like you and I used to write earlier, I don't know how do we write now, maybe just some notes, even that is on the phone most of the times. And if you're not preparing kids to become natives to using those devices while they're learning through their journey of learning, we're not preparing them for the future at all. So it does both the things. One is, of course, it makes it equitable, creates impact. But second thing is it also prepares them for what they're going to work on in future.
I just want to add something to what Kavita said about student agency, that one of the dilemmas in education is your consumer and your customer are two different beasts, and education would have moved and progressed a long time ago if they were the same beast, because we don't consume entertainment the same way. We don't consume food the same way. We don't consume travel and stay the same way. We don't consume anything the same way. And yet we insist that our kids do it the same old way. Student agency has to come in.
A very, very interesting, concept about student agency, or even what Kavita mentioned is that the learner will decide what's the best way to consume anything, whether it's online, hybrid. Maybe I'll pick up Richa, if that's okay with you. It's a traditional Harvard Business School, where you do a cold call. So Richa, you being a mother, and don't you feel sort of, for lack of a better word, like insecure, saying, hey, everything is online. Will my child will have a friends? Will my child will play games? Or 24/7, he or she, is going to be right in front of me. I know what he's doing. Don't you think when the child at the same time becomes overwhelmed, don't you think some of this question pass through your mind, and would be good to just sort of have a pure reflection on some of these areas as well?
Amit, you are asking me the right question, actually. Dreamtime learning is actually a dream come true for us as a family. When my son used to go in school, used to go to school, his main concern was he was never a happy and a fulfilled child. He used to come back from school and used to tell me, Mama, I do not have that ownership of my learning. Everything is instructed on me. So Dreamtime Learning is that kind of platform where play as well as relaxation are valued. It's like where they learn to value play as well as they enjoy their work somewhere without the pressure of exams and stress, and there is no manipulation to meet the external standards. So it's really important. See, the child is taking the onus, the ownership of the whole learning, and it's world-class curriculum. For him, learning digitally is like the most exciting thing in his life. It's like truly world-class, engaging and interactive. He's a very focused child. So, and moreover, it's a kind of platform where each learner is seen as a person. They are a whole day, they are they're spending their day doing things of their own interest, building projects of their own choices. And moreover, they have enough time and space to discover their own self. They're getting enough sleep. That's the most important thing. And doing a lot of unstructured play too. So they are like, where children are really empowered, have dignity, and they can be themselves with pride. It's like every day, it's like they're being told, never forget that you are one of a kind. So it's I think this is the foundation for lifelong well-being and even happiness and joy, which matters the most during the early years. And even for elder children too. And for me as a parent, the most important thing is like to adding creativity as in a child's life. It's very, very imperative. And we think that creativity is a very fixed trait. It's like a muscle. We have to stretch it. And Dreamtime Learning is giving them platform to brainstorm as well as to express their creative side. So they are teaching a lot of sense of responsibility, as well as the flexibility is giving them a lot of autonomy to the learner. And I'm really fulfilled seeing my child to fall in love with learning, as well as we have the time to live slow and enjoy the little things of life, and all the opportunities to enjoy the beauty of music as well as art, which we wouldn't otherwise. And this, I have read somewhere, to achieve excellence and to be on the path of self-mastery, there has to be peace in your environment. And that peace is there because of Dreamtime Learning. And I'm really, really, really blessed to be a part of it. And thank you so much for, to Miss Leena and the entire team, because my child is, he feels out of this world while doing his classes. And the talking about the socialization part, it's basically, if you see through the lens of 21st century, it's basically not a set of activities, sir. It's basically, it's not an activity, it's a set of skills. And these set of skills can be taught online through various activities. Like Ms. Leena said, they are collaborating in breakout rooms. They are talking, sense. They are in groups, and they are sharing such important information with each other each and every day. A second grader talking, about gratitude, about growth mindset. It's really amazing for me as a parent. So this is our main priority. So that's my point of view.
No, thanks, Richa. And you really seem to be very, very happy with that.
Yes, yes.
It's good to hear from you. And I think probably I should specifically ask this question to Leena. What is the big problem that you have solved? I do remember that Kavita did mention about that. Earlier the curriculum was offline prepared, and suddenly moved to online, was not really ready for the online world. And also I like what Kavita mentioned is now, it was one-way traffic. Now it's a two-way traffic, and its ownership has been given to the children, and they take the ownership of what they want to consume and how would like to they consume. So from a pedagogy perspective, from socialization perspective, Leena, is there anything which you think from an educator perspective, one has to really look at things differently, or any changes you would have done it to just make it more adaptive to the child, so that he or she understand that this is one more way to learn, or it's the way to move forward?
So, Amit, there's just so much that I could express, but I'm just going to give you one or two nuggets, right? So you can teach kids about tolerance and perspective through a theory, right? Like they can read it in a textbook and say, perspective taking and looking at somebody else's point of view and empathy are really important things, right? Or you could just do something like, if you're talking about sustainability and you're talking about, if you're vegetarian, you actually contribute less of a carbon footprint than than if you're non-vegetarian. We're never moralizing. We're never telling kids how to think, right? And then we ask kids who is pro-vegetarian, who's pro-non-vegetarian. And when they put their hands up, you actually switch them. So what you do is you give the vegetarians all the arguments for being a non-vegetarian, and you give the non-vegetarians all the arguments for being a vegetarian, right? Now suddenly perspective taking, thinking of other points of view occurs without you having to preach it. Then when they come back, they have to argue the other's point of view. Similarly, if we want to teach tolerance, we can talk about tolerance till the cows come home, but we all know what politics is, right? So if we're teaching kids India, and we're teaching them about the partition, for example, we're doing things that are very, very relevant and that they can really connect to. I believe in embracing the world that the child exists in. So if we're talking about the Dandi March, we'll ask kids, okay, create Instagram posts for Gandhiji, inviting people to come on the Dandi March. If we're teaching them about, tolerance, we're saying, okay, history books are written in a country for the people. But to get them to understand this, if we want more tolerance in the world going forward, if we want more peace in the world going forward, we only learn about the partition from an India's point of view. But if you were to read a Pakistani textbook in a Pakistani classroom, how does it position the partition? This is not to say that we're political or but we want kids to understand that for anything, there's multiple viewpoints, and you have to see the other person's point of view if we're going to come to a world of peace. Yeah, otherwise everyone's just going to hold on to their own viewpoint, and you're either Republican or you're Democrat, and you're going to stick to it. One of the very interesting things we did through COVID is we actually gave kids COVID journals. And one of the things we did is look at the positioning of Donald Trump and what he says about COVID. Now look at it through the eyes of Fox, and now look at it through the eyes of CNN. And suddenly they realize, oh my God, the same circumstance, the same situation can be described in two opposite ways altogether, right? So we're not trying to bring our main thing, and we call our instructional designers curiosity and excitement architects. That's all they're there to do. They're never there to moralize. They're never there to tell kids how to think or what to think. They're there to create a sense of curiosity and a sense of excitement. So excitement comes from being in awe. I mean, in schools, the teacher tends to have the kids feel like she knows everything. And the kids are there to kind of, mop it up and absorb it from her. In the real world, we know nothing. What we know about the brain. What we know about the brain is not even a drop in an ocean. I mean, the brain is such a mysterious. Now, isn't it better for kids to understand that the brain is this mysterious organ? It's got this conscious mind, it's got this subconscious mind, it's got this amygdala that has this fight, flee, or freeze instinct. The brain, from an evolutionary perspective, is wired for fear and danger and all of that. Isn't that more exciting than saying, this is the cerebrum, this is the hypothalamus, this is this, this is this, this is this? I mean, why do they need to know where the amygdala is? They need to know where the amygdala is because when they face a situation in which they get scared, they get, hey, hang on, that's my amygdala going into a hijack. It's going to hijack my brain if I don't start breathing, if I don't start being present, if I don't start being mindful. Technology solves so much, Amit. It's one thing that I do my test and I give it in and I get my corrections a week later. My brain has already absorbed the wrong information as being the right. It's a different thing when you do an interactive, drag and drop or whatever it is right there and then, and you check the answer straight after. And technology allows us not to get kids to mug for one test. It allows us to have this ongoing assessment, right? That have kids mastered it. And the assessment is not to test whether the kids know it. It's our job to make sure that the kids know it. And we allow them you can't say, hey, kids, have a growth mindset. How do they get a growth mindset? They get a growth mindset. Digital games do more for our kids' growth mindset than schools do. Because the kids learn, hey, I'm playing this game, I'm here, but if I keep practicing, I'll go here and here and here, and I'll only get better and better and better. And it doesn't matter how many times I meet the score. I play again and I get here. I play again. My practice is going to get me better. Games do more for a kid's mindset, growth mindset, than we do in school. But here, we constantly give kids multiple opportunities to do the same thing again and again till they crack it. I mean, we're not here to catch kids for what they don't know how to do. We're here to make sure that they know how to do it.
Wow, Lena, this is really, really very interesting that the way our brain processes some of the information is so different. And I remember that, I went to the traditional school of rote learning and only thing was being told to me is this is history, this is geography, and that's how I learn. But you're right. Practically, when I'm in the practical world, it's about perspective. It's about that event and the reaction and the response during that discussion, which makes so much of difference in our life. And as you rightly mentioned, that 21st century life skill, that's what everyone calls, is going to make a difference in everyone's life. And it's EQ. You mentioned that, as well. That is going to make a lot of difference. While I have one question for Kavita, on this, but at least I will request all my viewers that if there are any specific questions, please drop it on the chat, and we will, Leena and Kavita will read the chat and start replying as well. But my question to Kavita out here is that you did mention that the world is going to move towards a hybrid model, right? And do you think, and now I'm just wearing my VC hat, as you know, we would be looking at some of this different business model for our investments as well, is that do you think that there would be any changes which one has to undergo in terms of the way they will look at the business model, whether it is hybrid, whether it's 100% online, or even reaching out to, different categories of kids, because, or different pyramid, as what they said, some, or they may not be even pyramid, because now, it's one for all, right? So any thoughts around that?
Kavita, you're on mute. Before Kavita speaks,
Sorry.
as Amit, it's VCs like you that have given all of the online stuff a bad name by investing in the wrong startups.
Well, thanks for that, Leena. And you know what, from my current fund, okay, we are still looking at a first investment in the education sector. And we've been holding it because one thing we've learned as a VC that, in the education sector, it's all about outcome, right? And if it's an outcome has to be defined, that what are we doing for, and that outcome has to be sustainable, long-term, and something which is there. Like, for example, if there is skills development, outcome is that the kid should learn that skill. So we've been always holding ourselves, as you know it very well, that, we've been pretty, away from some of these noises which we've been hearing from the market. But thank you for putting me in the VC bucket, because truly we are a venture capital with a difference, because we invest in businesses for sure. But thanks for that. And Kavita, over to you.
Yeah. So, Amit, investing in education in India has been a challenge earlier for the simple reason that education is considered not for profit. And I could very openly say it in a webinar, and all of those lines as not for profit is more for to meet the government guidelines, really. But we all know what happens. So when investment comes into a physical infrastructure space, a lot of the money is going into the infrastructure and not. So how many times have investors said, okay, I'm going to invest in the pedagogy of a school? In what, like you beautifully said, if it's the outcome that you're investing on in a physical school, how many times is the investment actually going in creating the outcome? It's the capital investment is huge in creating the physical infrastructure of a school, and not really the experiences that the child is gaining in the pedagogical approach. One of the beauties of taking education hybrid digital is the fact that you're actually investing in the student experiences, and hence you can map the outcome very beautifully, not just in the pedagogy but also in the tech piece. So when you invest rightly in the tech, when you invest rightly in the pedagogy, there is a certainty to achieve that outcome, and hence investment in these areas are definitely here to. So most of the edtech companies, that like Leena said, have invested in have made bad investments. To me, what I hear from that is that there are technology experts who come into education without understanding the pedagogy of education. It's very important that the two match. You need to have a person like Leena who brings that futuristic pedagogical approach, and then a fantastic tech platform to put these two together and then scale it up. So it's easier for scale, it's easier for impact. Parents are able to understand and receive it. Kids are enjoying and loving it, and hence the outcome and the numbers.
No, thank you, Kavita, for sharing that. The investment is truly in the pedagogy, because that is what going to define the outcome for the children. Absolutely, agree with you. We've got quite a few questions from our viewers, Leena and Kavita. So would you mind if we can go one by one and try to answer at least few of them?
So I'm going to let Willie take the challenges. So interestingly, Willie is a parent with us. He started his journey as a parent with us. He's an ardent believer. He's really aligned to what we're doing in terms of outcomes and what we want for kids. And we have just engaged him in the promoting scaling of what we're doing. And he understands, I think, the challenges better than anyone. So, but before he goes into the challenges, one of the greatest things about who we are is we're not looking at VC funding. At least we don't need anything overnight. We don't need it now. So we can say, stay true to the sense of who we are. We don't have to be meeting somebody else's expectations for our financial outcomes. But Willie, what are some of the challenges you're having in promoting and scaling?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I think a lot of parents will say, oh, more screen time to my kids now. Are you serious? So Willie, would be good to hear your thoughts as well.
Sure. So firstly, I just wanted to share that as a parent, right, I have the latest phone. I've always looked at getting a better computer. I've always looked at, if there's something better out there, I always wanted to go get it, because I just thought if it's available, I have to be able to use it. And that's exactly what I also did for my own child, because I was constantly looking for a better model of education, right? And when I found this model of education, I said, this is the model of education that I want. This is the model of education that my child deserves to have. Having said that, I wanted to say that some of the challenges that you hear people rather raise or just talk about is, what about socialization? And, does this really work? One of the biggest things was, does your child actually really learn online? So there's this whole idea that online is just about shopping and gaming, and it's really difficult to learn online. However, when I start looking at my own life, so much of learning I do online, right? Everything when you want to learn something, you go to YouTube, and we are all doing that. All of us are doing that. That means children are also doing that. So it is actually possible to learn. It is actually possible to transfer a skill online. One of the ways that really made me a believer is when my daughter started learning to play the piano online. When she started learning to sing online, she's cracked 2 levels of Trinity only online. She's never actually met that teacher. That is actually possible to transfer a skill online. There's this whole talk of cyberbullying online, right? If you can bully someone online, you can also inspire, motivate someone online. You can't just say one thing happens and the other doesn't happen, right? We need to have the courage to challenge the status quo, right? We need to sit up and say, hey, I will constantly look at going to the better model that is available. And right now, this is the model that I found. So for parents who think that, that socialization or these kind of things, right, that you can't learn online, I think that's just a misnomer and it's a myth. A lot of people, and I also heard someone ask a question here before, saying that now that the online system is off, or now that code is off, can we, are schools going back to what they were? Or can we quickly go back to what they were before COVID? Now, there's a huge assumption there. All of us parents are assuming that schools were great before COVID. No, they were not great before COVID, right? Because, we don't want to go back to pre-COVID, because that is also not a great place to be. We want to be in a better place with all the learning that we have today, with all the technology that we have today. We want to be able to bring children, the best that we can bring at this point in time. So I also heard you ask Leena, as in, why did she sell her business? I'm just so happy she did that. You know why? Because I live away. I live 50 kilometers away from the nearest great quality, high quality school that Leena used to run. And there was no way my child would access that quality of education. And every single day I would sit at home and I would wonder, why is it that just because of where I live, my child can't access that quality of education? And there was a time in India where people were solving for the access to education problem, right? We are putting schools everywhere. Now people are trying to solve for the quality of education. Suddenly I'm now seeing that this particular solution for me, and I'm only talking about me, right? Because we have to look at what's suitable for us, from where we come from and what our dreams and visions are for our own children. And for me, I suddenly found this to be so suitable, because it's high quality education. It's equitable education. It is the same, literally the same thing provided to where I am, right? So that really made a huge, huge difference to me. So just quickly, I would also want to say that parents, when you send your child, when I used to send my child to a normal school, I still have to be invested in my child's education. I still have to sit with my child. I still have to work with my child. I can't just say, just because I don't see my child for 6 hours a day, the greatest things are happening to her. No, that's not the case. I still have to work with her. So I have to do that in the online space too, right? We have to work together with the school, with the teacher, with the child. We have to keep the child in the center, and we got to do that. But the beauty of it all is there's more transparency. I know what he's learning, and she comes and talks to me about things that I am also learning right now. Imagine at the age of 40, if what I'm learning is also what my children are learning, I start feeling like she's working, she's studying in a future fit program. She's studying in a program where there's no cognitive dissonance, and a lot of things that we look at professionals to teach us, my children are learning in school, and that makes me confident.
Thank you very much, Willie. And it's good to hear that you are really, really happy with this. And may I request, and we have got about 8 minutes before we wind up this webinar, and Kavita and Leena, we've got a couple of questions. Maybe what I'll do is I'll read out question one by one, and maybe either Leena or Kavita can look at answering some of them. This is a question from Kapish. And the question is, what are the challenges in promoting scaling this unique differentiated model of learning, especially with parents, educators with biases? How are you overcoming the same? And I know Willie did, reply to some of this as well, but would definitely love to have Leena or Kavita's view on this as well.
So, Kapish, I started Kangaroo Kids with only 10 kids, or maybe 12. I started my first Billabong High only with, I think, 35 kids. When somebody in Bhopal wanted to set up Billabong High, I said, hey, it's not, your city's not ready for it. He said, I don't care, even if it takes longer for me to make money. I want to go with the pedagogy that you have. We started that school, I think, with 20 kids. Today, that school is like some 3,000 kids. Billabong Kangaroo Kids is. So I believe in doing the right thing. I don't believe in looking at what the market wants and then creating a product for the customer, because firstly, my customer and consumer are two different people. I believe in creating the right experience for the consumer, the child, and it won't scale overnight. We started with the first cohort of 30 kids. It's parents like Richa and Willie who are happy, who will go and talk to another 10 parents. And we're looking for a lot of organic growth. And we're communicating as much as we can online. And the thing is that you can't shift anyone's mindset. You can only show somebody a different experience, and gradually the mind shift will happen. Just like it did, with preschool and what we did with Billabong, it'll just happen. I have no qualms and no doubts it's going to happen with Dreamtime Learning.
Maybe I'll just add to that. A lot of parents and educators know today that what they're doing, what they're experiencing is redundant, is not helping their kids. The kids are not enjoying it. The kids are struggling, being bullied, being wasting so much time in commuting, in not gaining. So they're looking for options. And that also takes me to the next question. Amit, I know you've not read, but I'm going to cover that too here.
Sure, please.
So for lack of time, they keep looking for options online, and that's where I take this question, that the abundance of e-learning platforms and content available, how do you really choose what you want to? And it's beautiful that it's abundant. It's just so beautiful that it's abundant. There's so much happening in that space, bringing you, making us aware that that's the future one. But how do you really choose is, I think that's where it's important that the parent and the student together make that call. They experience it. They understand the pedagogical approach before they choose the tech approach. Someone beautifully said it's ed tech, ed before tech. So, and I saw that in the chat box itself. So while choosing the program, it's important to see where is it coming from, who has created the program, what's the background of that person, do they understand pedagogy and philosophy of education, what's the kind of experience, it's the experience that has gone into creating that curriculum or that program. I think that's a big differentiator. It's not just the tech experience. While the UI UX is very important, I don't deny that, because that's what engages the child's curiosity initially or entertainment initially, but to keep them as learners, engaged learners over a sustained period of time, eventually it has to be the academic approach that the program is designed with. So when parents who understand that there is a gap in the education system experience the right programs, it's easier for us to promote this. Like Leena said, we are not somebody who will play with the cost of customer acquisition and say, okay, I'm going to bid and take my cost of customer acquisition at 20,000 rupees and compete with, a few brands which are doing that I wouldn't want to name. But to grow organically by appealing to parent and student experiences, I think the right approach to grow.
Kavita, thank you for that.
Can I just answer Jaya Lakshmi, because so one of the things is everything that Kavita said, correct. I think one of the few things we don't think about. So in our curriculum, we keep getting kids to think about their values, and by values I mean, do they value freedom or financial security more? Do they value inner harmony or financial security more? We ask them all these kinds of questions. So there's a whole personal values list. And the same way, parents never think they follow the herd. And we never want anyone to follow the herd. We're saying, firstly, as a parent, list down what you value. List down what you value. And when you list down what you value, look for someone that then provides the closest alignment to the sets of values you have. If a parent says to me, I only want my kid to become an IIT graduate, should I join Dreamtime Learning? I'll say, no way. Because we're here for kids to figure out what they're born for. What is how do they want to contribute to the world? What problem do they want to solve? What brings meaning, joy, purpose, fulfillment, makes them want to get out of bed in the morning? So, hey, if as a parent, you're you have a value that you're going to attribute what your child's going to become, don't come to Dreamtime Learning, because we're going to go absolutely opposite to that. Right? So parents have to think about what they value.
Thanks, Leena, and I can't agree more with you that the entire process is a self-discovery process, and that every child is different, every child is unique, and he or she has to go through her own experiences to find out what her happiness quotient is, and that's something which is extremely important, rather than putting a stamp that this is what I want to do, or this is what I have to do. And that's why I think probably the movie The Three Idiots also was passing the big message to everyone, right? Rather than doing the rote learning. That's been a very, very interesting movie, and it's very close to my heart as well. So, I've got one more question, and this particular question is from Tanya Shah. How do we cater to different able children in online only learning experiences?
So there's too many different types of differently able children to answer that in one sort of answer. If it's a physically disabled child, well, there's no problem at all. If a child is a slower learner, we can differentiate the instruction. A child can actually enter. So my nephew Aaron, who's actually in grade 1 in Australia, when he came to India, we had to put him in senior KG. We tried him in grade 1. He just wasn't at the same reading level. And for us to bring a child in at the right level, because we know this in the HR workforce, right? That you take somebody and you take him outside of his area of proximal development, outside his area of challenge, and he collapses. Right? The challenge has to be just so. We do that for adults, but for kids, we say, hey, you're in grade 3, so you have to be in grade 3. Right? But we have a way of assessing whether this. So Aaron bloomed in senior KG. He learned more reading in that 1 month at Dreamtime Learning than he has in Australia for all those years. Also, because of the nature of what we do, we are auditory, we are visual, and we are kinesthetic as well. Right? So that helps a lot of kids overcome. So I don't know if I've answered your question,
Yeah,
Tanya.
I only asked this because we run an edtech startup and we're facing this problem with cohort-based learning. Putting everybody at the same level just due to age group and those factors. So we conduct an assessment before we enroll kids. I was just wondering if somebody has come up with a better solution to the same thing.
Well, Tanya, if you have if you have an observer, right? And we call our teachers cheerleaders because they have to cheer kids on, right? They're not here to teach and they're not here to coach. They're here to cheerlead kids on and make sure all kids succeed somehow. So if a child's not engaging with the content, it means he finds the content overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right. So then you would try the child in a we've got no fancier technology to overcome that.
Because we try and train our facilitators in identifying children who might be probably more prone to having some sort of learning disabilities, but identifying things like that in online only models is becoming a little challenging for us. And I was just wondering if somebody's got an idea to that.
And very quickly, I'm going to take Tanya's. Sorry, Amit. I'm just 1 second going to take Tanya's second question.
Yeah.
We have a company in Australia called Simba. Simba Conscious is going to be giving a percentage of its profits to Dreamtime Learning to be able to reach all the kids in the rural areas. I'm talking about the middle income. As it is, we're affordable, but we're going to be even more affordable for kids in the rural areas. And I only got interested in the Australian company when they promised me this. And this is a way, I think, for all corporates to actually engage with anyone in their supply chain and their, anyone who works with them, to be able to give more than just a salary to the people who are working.
Yeah, thank you. I think we'll not take everybody's time. Maybe I'll just connect with you offline after.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you. Last question, I know Harjit has also a question. So this is the last question of the day, and then, we'll wind up. The question from Harjit Kaur is, I have a startup. We use games as tools to teach thinking skills like problem solving, critical thinking, etc. But it's really difficult for us to use games online. So my question is how we can use games online.
Can I ask him to further elaborate why it would be difficult to use games online?
As you can see, we are using physical games. So game is just like this. So it's like if I use it for online, so I can just only show it to the kids, but kids can't feel it. So the game is all about the feeling and how you can take the challenge.
So one is you have to move from physical games to digital games.
But it's all about feeling.
The second is, Divya might want to add to how we actually get kids to manipulate things in the real world. Divya's someone who's worked in instructional design with me for, I think, 25, 26 years. So she may want to just give you an example of how she does it.
So Harjit, what we did is we did have a learner kit. We, took things that could have multi-use, like tangrams or, blocks and base 10 blocks. In that, what happened is they still had the experience of doing things kinesthetically, where the teacher is showing, but very carefully we chose that kind of equipment which could be used for literacy, for numeracy, and all of that. And second thing is, having simple scavenger hunts, like, find these colors, things that they would be able to get in their house. So in that, automatically it was interactive and they were able to get in touch with their environment.
Okay.
Harjit, just wanted to add to what Divya and Leena said. Let's start thinking about getting children to create their own games.
Yeah,
whatever games you're creating, so you still get them to have the touch and feel by teaching them online how to create their own games. And for all that they'll come up with varied and better ideas of how to do the same game differently and to their like and choice. And I think that's what I said, Learner as an agency, where we say, instead of giving things to them, let them create, let them do it, and you will see the beauty that comes out of it.
So like, for example, what Kavita said rightly, like emotion dice. So they created the dice, we gave them cutout and they can think and they created by themselves.
Yeah, but the problem is
Harjit, I will request you, it's in the interest of time. You know, maybe we'll take this offline and
Yeah, sure.
you know, we have your, if you need, you can reach out to us, or you can even reach out to Lina. We can
For
make.
sure, for sure.
But I think this was an amazing webinar. So thank you, Lina. Thank you, Kavita. Thank you, Willie. Thank you, Richa, for supporting this, helping, you know, all of us as a viewer to understand a lot of different aspects of learning. And what at least my big takeaways from this, which I've really noted, is that it's not about online, it's not about offline. It's about how a user, a customer, the child absorbing. And that's very, very important. Let's not be worried about the delivery channel. Let's be worried about the outcome. And that's very, very interesting. I learned a very interesting word called self-discovery, right? And if you ask me about my personal example, I didn't know that I'm going to get into a venture capital world. It was a self-discovery. Every 2 years, I would change my mind and say that, you know, today I want to be into broking, tomorrow I want to be in financial services, mutual fund, and third day into this. And my wife said, hey, what are you up to? And finally, I'm into the VC world, because that's my discovery journey, or a self-discovery journey. You know, and it's very important that what you rightly said is, who has created this curriculum, how this pedagogy has been created. That's very, very important. And I like the few of the specific things which, Lina, you did mention about, that EQ is more important as, you know, IQ, because what we go through, everyone's everyday experiences is more of EQ, and you know, skills can always be adopted. And from a future perspective, the deep understanding of the subject is going to matter a lot, that either you be an expert, and innovation is going to be very, very important. And from a parent perspective, from a customer perspective, it's very important that you can save time, you know, you can still socialize, you can still play sports, and probably if you have more time, then you can concentrate on what you really want to do, rather than spending about 2 hours traveling, and especially in Bombay, wherever you have to go, you have to travel a lot, and you spend most of the time in traffic. So there are a lot of you know, interesting sort of aspects of as we see the future of K-12. But with that, I would like to thank every one of you for participating in this. Lina and Kavita, once again, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Richa and Willie.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Amit.
much for
Guys,
having us.
bye.
It was amazing
Thank you.
experience.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.